and make sure the streaming is working. Yep, we are live. Okay. Yep. All right. Let's see. Getting back to Zoom. And then we'll have some chanting first, if that's all right. Give me a second. Let's see. Okay. All right. Get the songbook out. And then we will pick a nice song. Okay. Kasharir ati ade mulit yanay pavelir korang mulit yabi mula kasharir ati ade mulit yanay Corona high bay, some sort of passion or kapit joy bay. Arakabe, jai chander, Corona high bay, some sort of passion. Vishaya jadi akabe Shudabe mana kabe ama Eva Pushri Vrindavanava Vishaya jadi akabe Shudabe mana Mahira Pushri Vrindavanava Rupa Akutafapade Hoy Beakuti Krihama Puja Bose Yugala Pirati Raghunatapare Beakuti Kapeyama Pushavase Yugala Mirati Rahumora Sha Ratana Kore Sada Narotamutas Rupa Nakatapade Rahumora Sha Ratana Kore Sada Narotamutas Ngorangabot Nite Abebo Lakasharigir Ati Ate Nite Nayane Abenir Goranga Te Abe Lakasharigir Ati Ate Nayane Mabenir Orangamoni Teawe Polaka Shari Aliane Molite Nayane Mabenir Polaka Sharir Adihane Molite Nayane Mabenir Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada, 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 Nichai Gaur, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Parvatacharya, also Tela, Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charana, Davakravalana, Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Mathuram Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Haribol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. Okay, let me read. When will that opportune moment come to me when I shiver upon chanting the name of Lord Gauranga? When will I cry while chanting Hare Krishna? When will I receive the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda so that my desires for material enjoyment become insignificant? When will my mind be purified of material anxieties and desires so that I can understand Vrindavana? When shall I be very eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis so that I can understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna? The lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis are my only shelter in constant separation from them. I remained Narottama Das. Narottama Das Thakur Ki Jai. Okay, so we are continuing with our study of the Sri Isopanisad, translated and commented on by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So let's go. We're still on the fifth text of the Sri Isopanisad. And so let's offer obeisances. Om Ganatimiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. And then we'll share the screen. I'm just pulling up the fifth text so we can see it before we go back to where we were in the purport. Hold on a second. Okay, we'll share the screen now. Mantra 5. Mantra 5 is quite interesting. It tells us, let's go to it. Tadijati, Tanajati, Tadure, Taduvantake, Tadantarasha Sarvasha, Tadusarvasha Shavayata. Which is the Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he's very near as well. He's within everything, and yet he is outside of everything. And so now we'll go on to where we were reading. Let me stop sharing this one and go to the other purport. Hold on a second. Okay. Because I have both of them opened up in my computer. There we go. Sharing. So this is the purple, middle of the purport. Okay. And this is where we left off yesterday. So yesterday we talked about how the Lord could walk and not walk. He's far away and near. All these apparent contradictions. Actually, we covered all that. When the child saint, Prahlad Maharaj, was in the presence of his atheistic father, his father asked him, "Where is your God?" When Prahlad replied that God resides everywhere, the father angrily asked whether his God was within one of the pillars of the palace, and the child said yes. At once the atheistic king shattered the pillar in front of him to pieces, and the Lord instantly appeared as Nrsimha, the half-man, half-lion incarnation, and killed the atheist king. Thus the Lord is within everything, and he creates everything by his different energies. Through his inconceivable powers, he can appear at any place in order to favor his sincere devotee. So in other words, this is proof that Krishna can travel faster than speed instantaneously. Lord Nrsimhadev appeared from within the pillar, not by the order of the atheist king, but by the wish of his devotee Prahlad. An atheist cannot order the Lord to appear, but the Lord will appear anywhere and everywhere to show mercy to his devotee. And of course this reflects upon the deity worship, that when the pure devotee installs the deity, Krishna comes and he transforms matter to spirit, as we were talking about yesterday. And the deity manifests. The deity is pure spirit and manifests as the deity. The Bhagavad Gita 4.8 similarly states that the Lord appears in order to vanquish non-believers and protect believers. Prichanaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkatam. Of course, the Lord has sufficient energies and agents to could vanquish atheists, but it pleases him to personally favor a devotee. Therefore, he descends as an incarnation, actually descends only to favor his devotees, and not for any other purpose. We've talked about this before, that the purposes of annihilating the miscreants, protecting the devotees, and establishing religious principles can be done by someone who the Lord empowers. He doesn't have to come for that. And why does he have to come for that? I mean, he can empower anybody. Oh, it has to be a devotee. But, he can empower someone to do that, or he can empower Prabhupada's books to do that. And he has empowered Prabhupada's books. But the Lord comes when it's a question of saving his devotee, because he wants to personally do that. We talked about that in regard to this famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Nanyas Chintayanta Mam Yejanak Paripasate Tesham Nityavayuktamam Yogakshema Vahamiham, where Krishna says, I personally carry what my devotee lacks and I preserve what he has. In the Brahma Samhita 535, it is said that Govinda, the primeval Lord, that means the first Lord, from who other lords expand, enters everything by his plenary portion. What does plenary portion mean? That means a Vishnu Tattva expansion, got it, who is non-different from Krishna, who is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, but manifesting less of the Lord's glories, potencies, or personal interactions. It's the same person. It's simultaneous. Krishna doesn't leave Vrindavan, but he manifests a lesser portion of his glories. But it's plenary. Plenary means on the same plane. He enters the universe as well as all the atoms in the universe. He is outside in his Virat form, and he is within everything as Antaryami. Virat means the universal form. All the planets and the air, everything is Krishna's body in one sense. That's Virat. The stars in the sky, the mountains, the rivers, everything. That's Virat. That's not Krishna's spiritual form, but that's a way to envision the Supreme Personality of Godhead for those who are not ready to accept his personal form. And he's within everything as Antaryami. Antaryami means inside. Antar. There's two words, Antar and Bahir. Antar means inside, Bahir means outside. As Antaryami, he witnesses everything that is going on, and he wards us the results of our actions as karma phala. Now that word karma means actions, work, and phala means fruit, the fruit of your work. Okay? There's two types of fruits that we get from our work. One is the immediate thing, just like I may go out, well, let's talk about fruits. I may be a farmer and just take some fruits out of my field, or not out of the field, out of the tree, and eat them. Those are one type of fruit. Now, if I don't offer those fruits to Krishna before I eat them, then there's karma phala, which means I get a karmic reaction from it. Everybody understands that? So two types of karma phala. One is the immediate apparent thing. The other one is by the laws of karma. We ourselves may forget what we have done in previous lives, but because the Lord witnesses our actions, the results of our actions are always there. And we have to undergo the reactions nonetheless. You may forget everything you did, and you may think that you're just innocent as the driven snow, like Snow White. But you did a whole bunch of bad things in your last life. Or maybe a whole bunch of good things. But you did a lot of things. And therefore, you have to suffer and joy for those things. Even though you may not remember them. Now, you may say, now what's the meaning of suffering and enjoying for something I don't know what I'm suffering and enjoying for? That's a good question. Well, consciously, okay, you have a few aspects of your personality. One is the conscious self, and the other one is the unconscious self, which in this particular case, we're referring to the subtle body, which has the impressions of your past births or past experiences. So the subtle body has all these impressions, all these, I guess you would say memories, not exactly memories, but impressions. And so the subtle body gets shaped by what happens to you. What do I mean by that? That, let's say you did something bad in your last life, or let's use an example. Let's say you ate meat in your last life. Not you, because hopefully you're a devotee. But let's say a person ate meat in his last life. And in this life, he gets to be a chicken. And the chicken is going to be killed. So you may say, chicken doesn't remember its past life, but the subtle body has that impression. And when the chicken is killed, the subtle body, somehow or other, there's a connection between what the person did on the subtle body platform, not simply the karmic platform, and then the person's consciousness hopefully gets rectified. Because punishments are meant for rectification. Punishments are not meant just for punishment. Punishment without a purpose is not what the Lord intends with the law of karma. It's punishment for rectification. It's called rectification justice. Everybody understands that? There's another type of justice called retributive justice. And retributive means just punishment for the sake of person getting even. And the other one is restorative. Restorative is rectification. Everything is a manifestation of his different energies, just like heat and light emanating from a fire. In this way, there is oneness amongst his diverse energies. Although there is oneness, however, the Lord in his personal form still enjoys unlimitedly all the pleasures enjoyed minutely by the tiny part and parcel living entities. In other words, whatever we enjoy, then the Lord enjoys unlimitedly in a absolutely pure, spiritual, blissful, full of knowledge, eternal way. That's the difference. Just like we were reading this morning in the Srimad Bhagavatam about Krishna. This is an interesting story. How Krishna stole the clothes from this dyer of clothes. He enters Mathura. Okay. One of the first things he sees is a whole caravan of donkeys carrying clothes that have just been dyed or cleaned. And there's one head dyer there. And he's carrying these clothes into the city of Mathura to sell, and I guess some of them are going to go to Kamsa also. And so Krishna deliberately teases this dyer of clothes. He deliberately teases, says, hey, give me some clothes. And he knows this dyer of clothes is going to be really obnoxious because Krishna has some experience, because this dyer of clothes in his last life was a dhobi. For those of you who don't know what a dhobi is, it's a person who washes clothes. Just like when I go to India, I put the clothes outside of my room and the dhobi picks them up and the dhobi returns them in the evening. The dhobi wala. So, anyway, some of you may be familiar with that. So anyway, this dhobi in his this dyer in his past life was a dhobi, and this was the person who criticized Lord Ram for taking Sita back. Wow, what a rascal. And so eventually, of course, Lord Ram sends Sita Devi away, and she goes to the ashram of Valmiki Muni. But anyway, so getting back to the point is Krishna is trying to bring out this guy's anger. Krishna's teasing, there's humor there. He's teasing this guy. Hey, give me the clothes. And he knows the guy's going to get angry. And then Krishna knows that he's going to end up killing the guy and taking the clothes by force. But he wants to enjoy all these different emotional interactions. Just like I enjoy teasing people sometimes. Yeah. It's fun to tease people. If you love people, sometimes you have a teasing relationship. I enjoy like a chivalrous exchange sometimes. I enjoy, getting angry at rascals. Not sometimes, all the time. I enjoy humor, obviously, everybody knows that. So Krishna, why can't Krishna enjoy all these things in an unlimited way? And when we try to enjoy them, if it's not connected to Krishna, that enjoyment is Krishna's, or under the jurisdiction of Krishna's delusory energy. Okay, we finished mantra 5. Rolling along. Okay, mantra 6 is really interesting. It's a mantra I quote a lot, and it should be kept in every devotee's heart as one of their strategic missions in life. Seriously. It should be one of my very important strategic missions in Krishna consciousness. Of course, the highest priority is to become Krishna conscious, but this is part and parcel of becoming Krishna conscious, because becoming Krishna conscious means to understand that everyone is Krishna's part and parcel. So let's read this. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmane vanapashyati bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vigigupshate yahihu tu, but sarvani all, bhutani, living entities, atmani, in relation to the Supreme Lord, eva, only, anupashyati, observes in a systematic way, sarva bhuteshu, in every living being, cha, and atmanan, the supersoul, tata, thereafter, na, not, vijugupshate, hates anyone. He who systematically sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. And this is one of my favorite topics, of course, that a devotee does not hate any person, animal, entity. The only thing we can hate is being our own illusion. I hate to be an illusion. I hate to be bereft of the association of devotees. But we're not hating anything or any being. So of course this is very much connected with the quality of a devotee called Ajata Shatru. Ajata Shatru means a devotee's enemy is never born. Now, of course, that particular term is used in relationship to Yudhisthira Maharaj, who is also called Ajata Shatru. And Lord Kapila Dev is very specific about this. He says, Suradas Avademi Dehinam Ajata Shatra Shanta Shatapa Sadabhushanam. Not only is a devotee not considering anyone to be his enemy, but he also is a friend. It's actually the opposite of considering someone to be your enemy, is to consider people to be your dear friends. So, anyway. What's that noise? Anyway, it's all right. It's not that important. So, let's read Srila Prabhupada's purport. Very important. And of course, we have that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 6:30. Yomam pashati sarvatra sarvajamai pashati tashaham na pranashami sachame na pranashati. One who sees me everywhere, Krishna is saying, sees everything in me, is never lost to me, nor am I ever lost to him. So this is a description of the Mahabhagavat, the great personality who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, you may say, I'm not a Mahabhagavat, so I'm going to start hating people. No. You may not see like that, but you can intellectually understand that and control your senses so you're not being violent to any living entity. The Supreme Lord's presence is realized in 3 stages. Okay? The 3 stages of devotees right now we're going to talk about. The Kanishta Adhikari is in the lowest stage of realization. Kanishta means materialistic devotee. Adhikari basically means he has certain rights. So his position. In the lowest stage of realization. So here's a Kanishta Adhikari. He goes to a place of worship such as a temple, church, or mosque according to his religious faith and worships there according to scriptural injunctions. Devotees in this stage consider the Lord to be present at the place of worship and nowhere else. They cannot ascertain who is in what position in devotional service, nor can they tell who has realized the Supreme Lord. Such devotees follow the routine formulas and sometimes quarrel among themselves, considering one type of devotion better than another. The Kanishta are actually materialistic devotees who are simply trying to transcend the material boundary to reach the spiritual plane. So this is 99.99% of devotees, and I'm talking across religions, are Kanishta. Krishna's in the temple, he's not outside the temple. Krishna's in the temple, he's not in everyone's heart. God's temple is his property. My home is my property. It's really like a dualistic conception, a particular type of dualistic conception that you don't really consider God to be that spiritual. So, and not only a place that you consider spiritual, but you may have a day that you consider spiritual. Like we don't eat fish on Friday, like the Catholics used to be like that. Or Sunday is God's day, like you find in the Ten Commandments. Okay, Ten Commandments were given to the Jewish people years ago by God, and one of the commandments is you should honor the Sabbath. Of course, some Christians and some Jews think the Sabbath is on Saturday. So that's why it's Sabbath. Others think it's on Sunday. But, really, that doesn't matter. The reason God gave that particular order is people were not godly the other days. And he thought, at least they should have one day they can be godly. Because the highest thing is godly, 24 hours a day, 24/7. But God thought, these people will never make it. They are losers. Losers. Give them one day a week. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, one day a week. On the seventh day. So therefore they have the whole story about God created the material world and on the seventh day he rested. Got news for you. God created the material world and he doesn't rest. He's resting, He's resting the whole time. He's lying down on the Seshanag in the causal ocean and he's resting. No yoga nidra. The rest, sleep. And this is all his dream. So he doesn't have to work. If God had to work, he wouldn't be God. Of course, other parts of the Bible are interesting. Let there be light, and there was light. It doesn't mean he was working. If you read the Bible, you'll see that he said, let there be light. There was light. Boom. Just by desires. By his glance, aikshata. So that part is really bona fide. So, God gave, one day a week, and I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if I should tell this. Anyway, I always preface the story that I want to tell just to make you interested by saying I don't want to tell you this. There was a movie many, many years ago before any of you were born, when I was a young man, and there was a movie about a lady who was a prostitute. And she was a very religious lady. And she did her occupation, made a lot of money. But one day a week, she didn't do it because it wasn't pious. So one day a week, that was Sunday, of course. So the name of that movie was, oh my God, Never on Sunday. So that's Kanishta Adhikari. Kanishta Adhikari, you can remember it's Never on Sunday Adhikari. Those who have attained the second stage of realization, this is what we should be striving for, are called Majjhima Adhikaris. Majjhima means middle. Also sometimes means someone's waist, which is the middle of the body. Like if someone has a nice waist, Then they're called Sumajjhima, nice thin waist. These these devotees observe the distinctions between the four categories of beings. 1, the Supreme Lord. 2, the devotees of the Lord. 3, the innocent who have no knowledge of the Lord. And 4, the atheists, and sometimes probably calls the envious, who have no faith in the Lord and hate those in devotional service, or avoid those. The Madhyamadikari behaves differently toward these four classes. Of course, he adores the Lord, that means he worships the Lord, considering him the object of love. He makes friends with those who are in devotional service, and serves them too. He tries to awaken the dormant love of God in the hearts of the innocent, gets them the chance somehow or other, and he avoids the atheists who deride the very name of the Lord. So in other words, don't waste your time with an atheist. The only time you should be arguing with an atheist is when other people are observing and you have to reinforce their faith or teach them how to preach. Otherwise, don't waste your time. You're not going to convince an atheist. But if you argue with an atheist and other people are watching and you could win the argument, fantastic, because that will actually encourage a lot of people to believe in God. So above this Majjhima, medium person, is the Uttama, that means topmost, Adhikari, who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee does not discriminate between an atheist and a theist, but he sees everyone as part and parcel of God. He knows that there's no essential difference between a vastly learned Brahmin and a dog on the street, because both of them are part and parcel of the Lord, although they're engaged in different bodies on account of the different qualities of their activities in previous lives, their karma. He sees that the Brahmin particle of the Supreme Lord has not misused his little independence given him by the Lord, and the dog particle has misused his independence and is therefore punished by the laws of nature by being encaged in the form of a dog. A dog does not misuse his independence, but the reason someone became a dog was because in his past life he misused it as a human being. Human beings are the only creatures who can misuse their responsibility. Other creatures cannot. Your dog cannot be evil. He can be dangerous if he happens to be a Doberman Pinscher or a Bulldog, but he's not evil. He's following his nature. He doesn't have a choice. You can't say to the dog, calm down, control your senses. Because when that female dog comes around, he's ready to follow her to hell. Not considering the respective actions of the Brahmin and the dog, the Uttama Adhikari tries to do good to both. Such a learned devotee is not misled by material bodies, but is attracted by the spiritual spark within them. In other words, he thinks, how can I bring everybody to Krishna consciousness? So for a dog, he doesn't preach to the dog. He gives the dog some prasadam, or allows the dog to hear the holy names. And for the Brahmin, he gives the Brahmin instructions. Those who imitate an Uttama Adhikari by flaunting a sense of oneness or fellowship, but who behave on the bodily platform, are actually false philanthropists. In other words, they're making believe they're Uttama Adhikaris. The conception of universal brotherhood must be learned from an Uttama Adhikari like Prabhupada, and not from a foolish person who does not properly understand the individual soul or the Supreme Lord's super soul expansion, who dwells everywhere, that is, in everyone's heart. It is clearly mentioned in the 6th mantra that one should observe or systematically see. This means that one must follow the previous acharyas, the perfect teachers. Actually, the word that I would use in this particular respect is shastra chakshus. That if one doesn't have the realization, he should see this world through the eyes, instructions of Shastra, the Vedic direction. Like, even though we don't see right now the soul in every living entity, We haven't realized it. We understand that's the philosophy, and we use our intelligence to act as if we realized it. And Prabhupada said, action in knowledge, even if the knowledge is theoretical, gives you realization. Everybody understands that? Like if you act as if you understood it, then eventually you will understand it, because that shows your faith in the instructions. And then Krishna rewards you with realization, which is called vijnana. Anupashyati is the exact Sanskrit word used in this connection. Ana means to follow, pashyati means to observe, also to see. Thus the word anupashyati means that one should not see things as he does with the naked eye, but should follow the previous acharyas. That's what I mean by shastra chakshush. You see through the eyes of the Vedic literatures coming from the acharyas. Yes, there's a soul in everyone's body. I don't see it, don't realize it, but I have faith that that is a fact. Due to material defects, the naked eye cannot see anything properly. One cannot see properly unless one has heard from a superior source, and the higher source is the Vedic wisdom, which is spoken by the Lord himself. Vedic truths. Veda means knowledge. So, truthful knowledge is coming into cyclic succession from the Lord to Brahma, from Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyas, and from Vyas to many of his disciples. So, that's called the cyclic succession. Krishna taught Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma was the first disciple, and then Lord Brahma's disciple was Narada Muni. Narada Muni spoke to Vyasadeva all the way down to the present day and age, and we have Prabhupada and Prabhupada's followers who are members of the Krishna conscious movement. Formerly, there was no need to record the messages of the Vedas because people had, in earlier ages, were more intelligent and had sharper memories. They could follow the instructions simply by hearing once from the mouth of a bona fide spiritual master. And of course, we've all experienced how our memories are not that sharp. If we want to remember, for example, if we want to remember a particular Sanskrit verse, we have to repeat it like 1,000 times, and finally, maybe we'll remember it. Repeating it and preaching from it, then after a while, we remember it. Or let's say if we want to give a class, sometimes we have to write down the notes, use our little Kindle. Kindle, of course, is a reading device that I use for class. I don't think I have it here in front of me. It's in the other room. Or use my phone, or write down on a piece of paper, because the memory is really bad. I can remember what I ate yesterday. I can remember what I ate 2 weeks ago. And you may say, wow, that's a good memory. No, it's just that I eat the same thing every day. So I don't have to strain my memory trying to remember what I ate. At present, there are many commentaries on the real scriptures, but most of them are not in the line of the cyclic succession coming from Srila Vyasadeva, who originally compiled the Vedic wisdom. Vyasa means dividing the Vedic literatures and compiling the Vedic literatures, and he's an incarnation of Krishna. The final, most perfect and sublime work by Srila Vyasadeva is what? The Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So the Vedanta Sutra is like the authoritative book for every disciplic succession. What is the Vedanta Sutra? It's written in very short statements, which are called codes, not Morse code, but short statements that make some reference, but don't exactly give that reference. It's understood that those who are reading the Vedanta Sutra will know what it's referring to. For example, one verse of the Vedanta Sutra in the beginning is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to look for the absolute truth. So those who are intelligent will know what that means. So the Vedanta Sutra cannot be understood by us unless we have a commentary. And the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam. Incidentally, the Vedanta Sutra is basically making reference to the Upanishads, which we've mentioned before. And the Srimad Bhagavatam makes reference to the Vedanta Sutra, which makes reference to the Upanishads. There's also the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by the Lord himself and recorded by Vyasadeva. These are the most important. These are the most important revealed scriptures, and any commentary that contradicts the principles of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam is unauthorized. There is complete agreement amongst the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Veda, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and no one should try to reach any conclusion about the Vedas without receiving instructions from members of Vyasadeva's disciplic succession, which fortunately we are members, who believe in the personality of Godhead and his diverse energies as they are explained in Sri Isopanisad. According to the Bhagavad Gita 1854, Brahmabhuta Prasanatman the Sarchatina Kangsati. 1854. Only one who is already in the liberated platform, Brahmabhuta, Srimad Bhagavatam 4:30-20, can become an Uttama Adhikari devotee and see every living being as his own brother. See, Brahmabhuta, Bhuta means living entity, Brahma means spiritual. So only one who's on the spiritual platform, right, understands Brahman, can see every living entity or being as his own brother. So that's really the point. Like Prabhupada would comment about St. Francis of Assisi, who was a Catholic saint. He said he had first-class God consciousness. Now, why would Prabhupada say that about him? Because he considered every living entity to be his brother and sister. All aspects of the material creation to be connected to him and connected to God. So Prabhupada admired him immensely. When the devotee, actually I think it was Shamashundra, had a discussion with Srila Prabhupada, it was a philosophical discussion, and presented the version of St. Francis of Assisi. He's a great personality. He was vegetarian also. Although nowadays his followers aren't vegetarians. This is an interesting point, that I have visited some Catholic monks who have as their rule, the Benedictines and the Franciscans, that they should be vegetarians, and as a rule, 99% of them are not. It's interesting, they're claiming to follow St. Francis, but they don't. This vision cannot be had by politicians who are always after some material gain. Politicians are in the mode of passion. One who imitates the symptoms of an Uttama Adhikari may serve another's outward body for the purpose of fame or material reward, but he does not serve the spirit soul. So why would someone imitate an Uttama Adhikari? Because you want something. You make believe that you're an advanced devotee. Everyone worships you. They give you donations. And they love you. And they put your picture everywhere. That's one of the problems. Put your picture everywhere. They buy you socks. All sorts of things like that. And what you're thinking is, this is good. This is better than working a job. Of course, I don't think like that. Such an imitator can have no information of the spiritual world. The Uttama Adhikari sees the spirit soul within the material body and serves him as spirit. Thus, the material aspect is automatically served. So in other words, the Uttama Adhikari can be compassionate with your bodily pain too, and try to help you alleviate you from the bodily pain, because he wants you to progress spiritually. So it's not that he's aloof and callous in dealing with people, just like completely uncompassionate, just telling chant Hare Krishna, your bodily pain is all Maya. He doesn't say that, because he understands one needs to be in a position where he's not harassed so much by the material energy in order to prosecute spiritual life. Okay, timing is perfect. So we finished mantra 6. And we will, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, be able to allow you to ask questions. Tomorrow we will do Mantra 7. So now you are officially allowed to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, or raise your hand if you want to feel like you're in a classroom, or type in the chat window. So who has a question for the teacher? You can either raise your hand, type in the chat window, or unmute yourself. No one. Come on, someone should ask a question. It's boring if someone doesn't ask questions. Oh my God. It's embarrassing. Then we just end early? Okay, we'll give you... Okay, Kirtana Sundari, you have a question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Or glories to Prabhupada.
Well, where's the Prabhupada? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Maharaj. And sorry, please excuse me for my voice. My throat is not well. I have a question regarding there was a one line we were reading in the purport where it says that Kanishta Adhikari is actually the materialistic person. So I was wondering why Prabhupada added that line, because sometimes if we see that even coming onto the level of Kanishta Adhikari, onto the level of faith, also requires some kind of bhakti, some kind of devotion. So if
Yes.
you can explain that, Maharaj.
Yeah, he's materialist. It's sort of mixed. But generally, the Kanishta Adhikari is worshiping Krishna for material purposes too. Prabhupada didn't mention that. That means he wants something material from the Lord, whereas a Madhyama Adhikari has his goal to become Krishna conscious, and an Uttama Adhikari is already Krishna conscious. So because his motivation is material, he's considered a materialistic person, although he's engaged in spiritual life. And it's sort of a mixture of Gata Sukriti, because he's not completely aware. It's not complete Agata Sukriti. Complete Agata Sukriti would mean without any knowledge at all. But he's not completely aware of why he's doing what he's doing. He's doing things, and mainly, and also, his worship of the deities and everything is done ritualistically, and he may have a little bit of devotion, appreciate how beautiful Krishna is and everything like that, but it's mostly materially motivated. And therefore, when you take away that motivation, let's say he gets the fruits. Okay, here's another point about Kanishta Adhikari. If he gets the fruits of his worship, in other words, let's say he's worshiping to become rich or to become free of disease, in many cases he'll give up his worship of the deity even. So that's another symptom. I mean, Prabhupada didn't really elaborate on all the symptoms, because it's generally almost completely self-centered, his worship. That's a symptom of Kanishta Adhikari. Is that
Okay. Of course, Maharaj. Thank you so much for elaborating on that point. That
yeah.
completely makes sense to what Prabhupada wants to say in the purport.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your question, because it's actually a good question, because he really gives up, when he gets what he wants, or he can be deviated because he doesn't. Another quality of Kanishta Adhikari is that he doesn't have faith. Okay, here's another one that Prabhupada elaborates on elsewhere. And so he or she can be dissuaded from worshiping Krishna if someone comes up and criticizes Krishna as being this or being that, or false god, or a Christian comes and preaches to him, and whatever. So he can give up his worship of Krishna very, very easily, because he doesn't have faith. He doesn't have full faith. Whereas a Madhyama Adhikari, although he may not have a lot of knowledge of Shastra, he has faith in the Shastra and faith in the spiritual master. So there's a difference in faith also. His faith is not firm. It's more like, I guess it would be more like we talk about that he approaches Krishna because he's inquisitive or something like that. You know, like the four types of people who approach Krishna.
Mm.
So also his faith, Prabhupada said his faith is very fragile. So yeah, he's not convinced. He's not convinced, but he may be worshiping because of his culture. He may be worshiping because he wants something from the deities. You know, just like you have these different prayers: Om Jaya Jagadisha, Swami Jaya Jagadisha Hari, and he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't understand Shastra. What to speak of having faith in Shastra? So yes, conception of God is not clear. Okay, thank you for your question.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And all right, so who else has a question today? That was a good question. Anybody else have a question? You have 3 more minutes to class. I guess Pran Govinda is not here today to ask a question. I don't see him. No.
Just here. Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Sudama, Hare Krishna. So, where are you? So, you're with your husband right now?
Yes, Gurudev. In the hospital, he's come back to the hospital for sepsis treatment. So he's on antibiotics. Say Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Hare Krishna Raj, how are you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Good to see you. So, we're praying for you. You'll be fine. You're in Krishna's hands. Krishna will always be taking care of you.
Yes, I think I'm going to a better world.
Yes, you're going to be with Krishna. And when you get to go with Krishna, you just tell him, "I would like to go too, but not so quickly." Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So keep in touch.
Thank you, Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Hare.
Okay, so I guess we're going to end class because there's no other questions today. Tomorrow we're going to start with the next mantra, mantra 6, which is also quite an interesting mantra. I mean, the Isopanisad is just a chock full of information for us. Okay, thank you very much. All glorious to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada, whoops, here's a question. Astatera, that means, Astatera Shata means 8-fold obeisances. You know, the 8 is a very auspicious number. Let me get you the direct translation of that. Let's see. So anyway, Asotera. Whoops. That's a good question. I will actually have the direct translation of that for you tomorrow. How's that sound? But it's like Ashnatara. Okay. Thank you very much. It is a good question. All glorious to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Haribol.